Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Speaking at the gala inaugurating the Polish presidency of the Council of the European Union, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said, in part, "I would like to say that the Polish presidency is about using our national wisdom, our experience. The motto of our presidency is Security Europe, and our national experience is the constant hybrid war on the Polish-Belarusian border, cyber warfare, the struggle for energy security, and the direct threats of war in Ukraine." That is a full agenda for the 6 months of the presidency. How does Prime Minister Tusk intend to accomplish this, and what obstacles stand in his way? Well, to explore this, I'm joined by Marcin Zaborowski, Europe editor, TVP World. Marcin, hello and welcome.
Hello, hi. It's good to be here.
Good to have you, sir. So, Prime Minister Tusk is talking about the experience that Poland has, and we understand where those words are coming from. They're coming from Poland's past, its history, but also what it sees Russia doing in Ukraine today. Now, one of the challenges, of course, that Prime Minister Tusk and Poland is going to face is getting other countries within the EU to share the same understanding, if you like, of the risk that the EU eastern flank bears at the moment as a result of Russia's aggression. Would you agree?
Oh, totally. I mean, on the issue number one about the sharing of wisdom experience, I mean, all of that really comes from Poland's exposure to a possible threat from Russia. Poland's exposure is just much greater than those of the countries in Western Europe. And the consequence of that is the fact that Poland for years, if not decades, have been warning both Western European allies and as well as our American and Canadian allies to treat Russia as a potential threat to the alliance. And Poland, as opposed to other member states of NATO, other member states of the European Union, has consistently invested in defense more than those of our partners. And we've been always planning for a possibility of deterring and defending against a possible Russian provocation. So today we are better prepared than our Western allies, and we also know that what is happening in Ukraine today, if it's not being stopped in Ukraine, may spill over and start to threaten allies in the NATO alliance.
Indeed. And in terms of the Polish presidency of the EU Council, how does that position Poland to have a greater influence over other EU countries so that they can finally get this threat that you've just very clearly outlined?
Well, so Poland has started to hold the presidency in the EU Council and on the 1st of January. And it will do so until the end of June. So just to remind our viewers, every half a year a different nation is holding presidency. So before Poland, it was Hungary. That was a very unsuccessful presidency. The presidency during very, very little happened. Now, Poland is a country which is has an acute sense of a threat and exposure to the situation beyond our eastern border, but also it is a country which has good relations with other partners in Western Europe and across the Atlantic with the United States and Canada. So the Poles both praise the cooperative approach and are able to make best out of that, and at the same time they have a clear eye about how we should look into this challenge and threat from the east. Hence, the whole agenda of the presidency is full of issues related to security. Actually, the overall theme of that presidency is security. And it's security in different senses, predominantly, of course, in traditional defense terms, but also in terms of border security, of immigration situation and preventing against illegal migration, but also economic security, and also security when we have a critical infrastructure under threat and challenge from Russia, and defending against acts of sabotage like what Russia has been recently doing in the Baltic Sea.
Right.
So this is security from start to the end.
Understood. Now, I'd like to move on to defence spending. In the year 2023 to 2024, there's been an increase amongst EU countries of over 15% in defence spending. That's 50 billion euros year on year. 22 countries have increased their defence budgets. Why has this only happened now? Why hasn't it, why didn't it start when Russia first invaded Ukraine? Why didn't it start when these countries, many of which are in NATO and already have an obligation to spend 2% of GDP on defence? Why now? What has been the trigger?
It is really the issue of a certain mindset. When it's deeply psychological. When the Cold War ended, the Western allies boosted their economy, social spending by cutting spending on defense and security. So suddenly they had, heaps of money more on investing into these issues, and that's what they've done for decades, and they got used to it. And then suddenly now to switch back into defense and security may be politically difficult. It is much easier for countries like Poland, the Baltic states, Finland, Sweden, the countries which are bordering with Russia or are very close to Russia and are exposed to that threat, than for countries like, let's say, Spain or Italy, which are very far away from the war theater, which have urgent social issues, and to invest in defense is a tricky thing, because actually you keep investing billions and billions into hardware and capabilities which you are hoping you are never going to use in a wartime situation, and that's going a year after year. So it's vulnerable to a political argument by those who are saying this spending is unnecessary. We should be investing in economy. We should be investing more in fighting against unemployment, in our healthcare system, and so on. So, like I said, for the countries which are close to the war theater, it's much easier to convince our population that this is necessary, that we need to invest more in order to make Russia think twice before it would be preparing to hit us. We are doing it all with a thought and with a hope that we actually are not entering into a hot war situation, but we will have strong enough arguments to deter.
Understood. Now, President-elect Trump has said on many occasions that he wants Europe to pull its weight when it comes to defence spending. And I think that this also connects the mentality argument, the perception argument that you just laid out. He says that basically too many European countries have been relying on the US to provide protection for NATO. Would you generally agree with that sentiment?
Yes, I think it's difficult to have an argument with this. With this point put forward by President-elect Donald Trump, we may argue with the method of laying it out. It's not nice that Trump is saying that I would not defend the allies that don't invest into defense themselves. It is kind of contradicting the spirit of the alliance itself. But actually, at the end of the day, he is saying similar thing to the other presidents and people responsible for running U.S. foreign policy in the past. I mean, it is just that his predecessors were saying what the Europeans are doing is free riding, and they should really seriously invest in defense rather than having the United States as some kind of security agency for free. Yeah.
Understood.
So Trump is saying, if you really carry on like that, this is the end of it. I'm leaving that alliance, and I will not protect the allies. And people know that he means it. So this is a difference between Trump and his predecessors.
Understood. Now, certainly, Poland has been in the lead in terms of increasing its defence spending, and the government has recently introduced statutory regulations that defence spending must be at least 3% of GDP. Now, this is a number that's actually being kind of talked about in other countries, and that includes the United States. 2% is no longer enough. The challenge that Poland has, I suspect, is getting other countries across Europe to raise the bar to 3%. What can Poland do to convince them?
Well, nobody can force other countries to actually invest in defense if they are not prepared to do so. The only argument which seems to actually work is the argument of being close to the war theater. That's the situation with Poland and the Baltic states. And the other argument is what Donald Trump is doing now. He's saying, you don't invest in defense, I will not defend you. And that seems to actually be effective. As you said at the beginning of the program, 22 allies out of the 33 are already spending above 2% of GDP. On defense, and a year ago or 2 years ago, the number was much smaller. I remember the time when only Poland, Estonia, and Great Britain, and I think Greece, were spending above 2% of GDP, and Greece was spending only because it was protecting itself against another ally, meaning Turkey. So in actual fact, it was just 3-4 allies that were doing that homework. So Poland can make an example out of itself, and it is doing so. Poland is spending well above 3% of GDP. This year we are spending 4.5% of GDP, and in total numbers, Poland, a nation of 37 million, is spending on defense currently more than much wealthier Italy or Spain, the nations bigger in numbers and with much bigger GDPs. So Poland is basically giving an example, take security and defense seriously. Times are unpredictable. Plus, at the end of the day, this kind of investment will also benefit critical infrastructure. It will also benefit defense industry in the country. It will benefit research and development. So it's not just about investing in armed forces, but it's about a different mindset, really, and about switching your economy into a different mode.
Understood. And of course, the benefit of exports of defence equipment and know-how. Marcin Zaborowski, thank you very much indeed for joining us and sharing your expertise with our audience. Have a good evening, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye now. And that's all from us in this episode of World Talks. Goodbye.